So today, what I thought we'll do is, okay, still there are like few more things which I thought we should know from the VM standpoint. Okay, let's look at those things, and then if time permits, we'll start networking. If not, like we'll just conclude with the VM alone. Let's see. Okay, it depends on how it goes. So what we will do, we'll start by creating a VM. Okay, wait, it's not working. Okay, again, we are going to create a VM. Okay, I wanted to show few more things. Okay, before even I create the VM, this time let's create a resource group separately. Okay, I'll tell you why I'm doing this like this. Like any resource, right? Whenever we create, it's going to tagged with the subscription, and that's what in this case it is a dev subscription. Okay, we'll just say dev rg, and let's create this one. This is the resource group we are going to use to create our VM. Okay, it is just a simple thing. Like as you all know, a resource group is just going to hold all the resources. It's going to act like a folder. Okay, now going back to the VM, uh, let's use our dev rg, and I'll just name it as VM1. Now, let's pick a different location. No? So, if, let's say US West, okay, for a change. Okay. Now, what we will do, rest all will go with the same specs. So, one thing if you notice, okay, let's see. I'll go back to just look at the price, right? It is right now 85.4. Now, let's switch to India, right? You see there is a price difference. Okay, so I just want to tell you, like, your VM or your resources would have price according to the region which you choose. Okay, there is going to be a difference in the price depending on which region you choose. Okay, just think of like you purchasing a land, right? So your land rate would be different across different places, right? So like that in Azure also, depending on like where the data center is located, your VM cost would differ. Okay, so in this case when I choose US West, it's giving us 85.4 as an estimated monthly cost just for the VM spec alone. Okay. Let's go with that location, and I'll go with this password based authentication only for now. Let me give the password, and rest all. Okay. So yesterday when I created the VM, we didn't go through these tabs. Okay, still today also we'll not go through all, but once we cover networking, most of the things would cover. But for now, just remember, like, this is the place where you can define like what is going to be your OS disk. If at all, if you want to attach a new disk and all, you can do it here during the VM creation itself. Okay. Networking, again, we are going to see this, so we'll not worry about this for now. I'll go and create it. Let It's doing the validation. Okay, then we should see a screen. If everything looks fine, we'll get an option to create it. I don't know, it's kind of slow today compared to what we had yesterday. Maybe let's open another tab. I'm not sure if it is because of my network problem or something. Let me quickly do a speed test. I think this is better. Okay, anyways, we'll do a new VM. Okay, I don't know why it's not there. Instead of waiting, we'll just initiate a new VM creation in a different tab. I'll just name this as VM2, and I'll quickly fill the other details. Yeah. Okay, we got this as well. Let's create it. I think this will also come. That's okay. This request is submitted, right? So this would take a minute. Okay, we just have to wait. So what I want to show you is like on the VM side, we are going to see how to resize. And I also wanted to show or talk about few things to consider when you do a disk resize. Okay, because yesterday we did see how to resize disk. We took an example for a Windows VM and we did do a resize, but there are like few more important things which you should be aware when it comes to the resizing part. So we'll see those things and then we'll go to the next topic after that. Let's wait for this to finish. Okay, again, like I don't have to be on that same window. Okay, I have just closed it. But let's see. This is the VM we created. It is on the dev subscription, right? Let's see if I can show you something here. Deployment. Okay. Fine. I'll come to that later. Okay. Now, if you see, okay, what I will do is in this tab, I'll go to my resource group. Okay. So if you see our resource group is created on South India location. Okay. But whereas our VM is created on West US. So on which location you think our data is going to reside? Any guess? VM is in US West and resource group is in South India West. Okay.
West.
Okay. Okay. Then like what does this location means? So I've given some other location, but still Azure is allowing me to create a different resource on a different location. It is completely a different geography as well. I'm not even creating anything on a central India or West India, right? So why do we have to give a location here? Anyone, if any guess, if you have already seen this? Okay, so what happens here is, okay, when you define this location, your resource group will just contain the metadata information of all your resources. Okay, so to store that metadata, it's going to use this location. In real time, you'll not have like this where your resource group is created in one location and the data is sitting in some other location. Maybe if you have a DR situation, all things would be a little bit different. Again, it depends on how things are configured, but in general, you will be having things in the same location. But I just wanted to tell you this is something possible. Okay, so you can have your resource group in a different location and all your resources running on a different location, but it's not recommended in real time. You might not see it, but it is possible. Now going moving on, so let's connect. Okay, um we'll do SSH. Okay, there's a caps mark and this is our public IP. Let's connect. So this is a Ubuntu image, right? So what we have used now, we want to do a resize of this VM. Okay, uh anyone like how I can check what is how many CPUs I have in Ubuntu? What command we should give? Any guess? I mean, this might be basic, but I'm just asking, like, so that no, okay, okay, fine. So there are like different ways to check. Okay, top. Let's run it. So if I run top, do you see how many CPUs are there? It's showing like the task manager which you see in the Windows, right? So, but does it show how many CPUs? It just says CPU usage, all other things, right? And it also gives like what other processes are running. Okay. So now I'll show you other options. Okay. Let's do clear screen. You can do ls CPU. Okay. This will print a bunch of information. Here, if you see, you have like two CPUs in this case. Okay. This is one way. Or you can also do a cat on proc CPU info. This is going to give you output for each of the processor. So in this case, processor 0 and processor 1. Okay, we have like two CPUs in this case. So this is how you can check how many CPUs are there. Okay, now let's say we want to resize this VM. Okay, so where you can go is you can go to availability and plus scale and go to size. Okay, so this is the CPU and the RAM currently we have allocated to our VM. Now let's say I want to go to 4 and 16 GB RAM. Okay, let's do a resize. Okay, before that, let's also check one thing. Mm, let's go to disk. Okay, our disk is now 30 GB. Okay, just remember our OS disk is of size 30 GB. Let's go to the size, and if I want to check the disk size from here, right? So df-h. Okay, this is that 29 GB, the TGB thing, which is the mounted on root. This is the drive OS disk. Okay, so I mean these are like small comments. If you are new to Linux, you will just get used to it. Okay, I intentionally picked this so that you'll get used to this OS type as well. Now let's go and do a resize. Okay, I'll click on resize. But when you do a resize, okay, your VM gets restarted. Okay, you cannot do it in online. Okay, so that's what this message says. Let's proceed. Just remember, okay, in real time, if you're doing any sort of resize, that involves a downtime. Okay, your VM gets restarted. Let's wait for this resize to finish. This should take a minute, and our session will also get closed. Yeah, you see, right, as expected. Let's wait for this to finish. In case, right, in real time, if you have any problems, okay, let's say your VM had to do a restart and come online, but if it is not coming online, or if it came online, you are not able to connect. Okay, so there are like certain places where you can check. Okay, so one is the serial console. Okay, from this serial console, this will give you, okay, in case of Windows, it's going to give you a screenshot of that login page. So from serial console also you will be able to connect and do the troubleshooting. Okay, that's what you see here. So your VM is getting booted, and you can see all the other messages here. Similarly, there is this boot diagnostic logs. Okay, this is the place where you will see the screenshot. If in case of Windows and all, you will see that lock screen. Okay, so you can come here and take a look at what is the status of your VM. Okay, that is one thing which you can make use of it. Now, what we will do is we'll again take SSH just to see if we'll check the CPU again from the server. Okay, just to see if it is updated. Okay, ls CPU. Now you see four CPU. Okay, which in the portal also you see the same. Okay. Now what I will do is we'll also check df-h, and you see, right, this is our root. It is still 27. Okay, which is like it's still the same size what we have. Now let's say I want to resize this OS disk as well. Okay, so what we will do is let's go to this disk and settings. Here you have size and plus performance. Okay, for in Azure, okay, for each given disk size, you would be getting a IOPS. They'll have respective IOPS which is assigned. Okay, depending on the size whatever you are using. Okay, in this case, let's say we want to go to 64 GB, right? Again, see the message here. Okay, changes to the disk size can be made only when the disk is an unattached or managing VMs are in deallocated. So you all know now what is deallocated. Yesterday, if you remember, when the VM is in stop state, it goes into deallocated state, right? So what I will do, let's go and stop this VM. We'll wait for this. So while this is going on, what we'll quickly do is we'll also create a new VM, which is going to be on Windows operating system. Okay, so that we'll have that also ready once we are done with this topic, so that we'll go to the next topic after that. So that I'll quickly launch one VM and keep it handy. We'll save some time. Rest all, I'll leave it as default. And it's doing the validation. Great. Okay, now this VM is in deallocated status. Let's go to the disk, and this is our OS disk. Okay. So this is one way of going to disk, or so all these are like individual resources. Okay, I can also search for a disk, and this will show me this disk. Okay, whatever I was seeing there, and if I click on this disk, from here you can know if this is attached to a VM. In this case, this is managed by VM1, and operating system is Linux. Okay, and you see other performance tier, etc. Let's move on to the size and performance. Now let's say I want to go to 64 GB, right? Let's click on save. This is going to update the details. And now what we can do is we can go to VM from here, or if I go to disk, okay, I see one more disk. This is from our Windows VM. Okay, don't get confused. Let's go here, and from here also I can click on the VM. Now what I will do, let's start the VM. We'll also again just cross check so that you get familiarized with the command. That's the reason I'm doing it again, though from the portal I'm showing, but it is good if you know the commands, right? So we'll check that visually by running the command to make sure if the resize is done correctly. Okay, and okay, our VM is up. What I will do, let's do SSH. It's still coming up, maybe. Control C. Okay, now we got the prompt to get the password. Okay, df-h. Now you see, right? This is like 64 GB. Now let's say you realized, okay, I don't need 64 GB. Okay, I want to go back to the 30 GB. That is enough for my workload. Okay, so you all know in cloud computing world, all the resources can be scaled up and scaled down, right? So in this case, okay, now I want to, I mean, go back to my 30 GB of disk space. Okay. So how many of you all agree? Okay. So cloud is awesome and we should be able to do this resize without any problem. How many of you agree? So it's to who said cloud is awesome. Okay. I mean, just assume. Okay. But going back to the question, right? So how many feel okay? We can go back to the 30 GB. Yes, no. It's fine if you. It's just you're going to. Yes. Yes. Okay. It's all like mixed. Fine. So let's see. No, only one way. Okay. Okay. Let's see. We'll see. So what we will do? It may corrupt the OS. Okay. Okay. But I mean, they should give the flexibility, right? I might need the disk for some period, more data. Then I want to go back to my lower spec. So let's see if that is possible. Okay. Again, like we know our VM has to be in a deallocated state. So now we are stopping the VM. Let's wait for this. Let's go to disk. This is still going on. I don't know, like today it's like kind of slow. That's what I feel. Okay. Now our virtual machine, this VM is in deallocating state. I think it should have updated. Okay, deallocated, right? Let's go to disk. And this is our data disk. I mean, the OS disk. Let's go to size. Now, for 128, 256, you see all these things enabled. I'll be able to save. But the moment I click on 32, okay, so if you see, reducing the disk size is not supported in Azure to prevent data loss. Okay, just remember this in mind because if you are doing a resize, if you have set to higher limit, you cannot go back and shrink your volume directly. Okay, so that's why this is not possible. Okay, yeah, you cannot reduce it, but instead you can increase it. But okay, this is for the disk. Now you might be thinking, okay, this doesn't look good, but what about the VM specs, right? So VM also we increased it, right? So now you know we cannot change or decrease the size. With that, how many of you think we can reduce the resize the VM spec to lower one? Do you think we can do it? Because we already moved to higher spec. It is allowed. Okay. Any other opinion? Because for disk, if you know, it didn't allow. They have given concession on this. Okay. Okay. No idea. Okay. Yes, it is allowed. Fine. Let's quickly check that. My buddy. Okay. So your VM specs can be reconfigured. Okay. So VM you can scale up, scale down, but not the disk. Okay, because your disk holds the data. Um, so that's why like that is not allowed because it can have any data loss and all. There are chances you can mess up things, but that's why they don't allow it. Okay, even though like you can shrink and do repartitioning all those things, but you cannot do a resize of the disk whatever you have allocated from the portal. Okay, so your VM resize can be done. That is completely supported. That's what now we have done. Uh, and let me refresh. Wait, did I do it?
Hey, Naveen,
Resize. Yes.
Disk space can be increased, right? Even if they want another 10 GB, they can add it, isn't it?
Yes, they can. But again, it's not like so if you're adding a new disk, okay. Okay, let me show that. For example, okay, there's two scenarios. In this case, if I go to size, let's go here. I cannot put a custom size here. Probably here we can. Okay, yeah. So but I'll talk about this also again. Okay, there is some more things which we should be aware if we are what depending on what value we put. But yeah, to answer your question, we can increase the disk size but we cannot decrease it. That's what you saw here.
Yep, that's good.
Okay. um let's go here. Okay, now it is reflecting here. So now we are back to two CPUs and 8 GB memory. Now I'll go back to this thing, right? This size thing. And if you see here, it's not okay. What I will do is just to show you, I'll open another window. Let's okay, let this be. I'll go to virtual machines, create VM. I want to show one more thing about this resize only. Let's say VM3 Ubuntu see all size. Okay. Now here if you see, let's see if I can get any other disk. Okay. So what I wanted to show you is, okay. So in this case, if you see, you will be able to do a resize for the VM series. Let's say if you have picked a VM series which supports this local storage, right? The resize VMs, let's say you are going to do a resize to a different VM series, right? You should pick a series where this local storage is still available. You cannot pick a VM where this local storage is not available. Okay. If your VM is already configured with local storage, you have to configure or do a resize with the series which this local storage is available. Okay. So if I go to the Azure documentation, right? Azure VM resize, you should be seeing this point mentioned. Let's see. Okay, if you see here, right, you cannot resize a VM that has a local temp disk to a VM with no local temp disk. Okay, so this is another point which you should be aware. If at all, if someone is telling, okay, go and resize to this series, you should go and check if that given series has a local storage or what is the current VM configured, what is the next thing you're going to resize, whether this has a local storage or not. Okay, if at all if you are picking a different series which is not having, then it's not going to work. Okay, it's clearly mentioned under the limitation. So this is another thing which you have to be aware. Okay, now what we will do is we will start this VM. Okay, just to, I mean, see. Okay, it should be back to again 2 vCPUs and 8 GB memory. Okay, any questions on this? You learned something new?
Yeah, Naveen, one question here.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah. So the storage has increased from 32 to 64. So we
correct.
are not supposed to decrease to 32 GB, as you said. So
Right.
suppose can we split the one more drive and add the free space to from the 64 GB to another new drive?
Mm, you can, okay, because all those things are logically inside the server, right? You are if you want to create any partition, etc. That's what you're asking, right?
Yeah, because the 64 GB is there, but we haven't used full storage. Instead of
Okay.
that, we have a requirement to create a new drive and they need some backup files or something. Split the
Mhm.
drive from 32 GB into another drive, new drive. Is it possible?
Yeah, yeah, you can create partition and just mount it separately. But in real time, right, what they do is if at all,
Mhm.
if you are in a situation where you have allocated more and you really want to shrink it, they just take the snapshot, attach a new disk, copy the data, just remove this disk.
Okay.
Okay, this is for a data disk. In general, in real time, you will store it in data disk only. But in case of OS disk, things are going to be different, like where you can take a snapshot of the VM and restore and all. Those things we'll see later. But for a data disk, in general, what people do is since you cannot shrink it, they will attach a new disk, copy the data. If you want to retain the same drive letter in Windows, you can do it. They'll just do that change and go with a smaller drive. Then they will detach the disk which was provisioned with a higher spec which they wanted to remove and delete it.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll show that probably disk removal also. Okay, we have seen the disk attach. Okay, let's add. I'll just say data. We'll add this disk as well, just to show. Again, we are doing on VM1 only. We'll wait for this. Okay, this is done. And if you want to just remove a disk, right, you can just go here. Wait. You should be seeing an option. Now it says attached. Okay. You'll be able to, wait, let me just refresh the window once. Disk. Yeah. Okay. Detach and apply. So what happens now is if you detach, it's not going to delete your disk. Okay, it is just as the name says, it is detaching the disk from the VM. But if you go to disk disk, right, you will still see that data disk. Okay, which means like if I want to attach it again to the virtual machine, I will be able to do it. If I go here, in that case you will be using this option, attach existing disk, and it's showing your data disk. Okay, like this you can attach it back. But when you detach, you will still have that resource available, so you have to do a separate cleanup. In a lot of companies, right, they'll actually pull this report. Okay, they'll basically pull the list of disks which is unattached, so that to save cost they'll see if those disks are really needed or not, and then they will delete it. Okay, because mostly it might not be needed, they would have removed it. It could be for either case, but they'll have a habit of pulling that report, what all the unattached disk, and they'll review it. So if we don't need this disk, I'll then go and just delete it. This is when your complete disk would be removed. Okay, and once you delete, that's it. You cannot recover if you don't have any snapshot or backups. Okay, this is another point on the resize things and all. So we have seen a lot of things on the resize. So why I talked about these things is this is something which, if you are working on any cloud, right, these are some of the common tasks which you will do. Okay, so that's why I wanted to cover these scenarios. Now, what we will do is, okay, we'll pick this VM2 for the next thing. We will see how you can take a snapshot of the disk. Okay, let's say if you are doing some work, or if you want to take a snapshot of a disk, we'll see how that snapshot can be taken and how it can be reused, and all we will see now. Okay, it is still loading, but meanwhile, like, any questions so far, just to check again, because we are going to discuss a different topic. I just wanted to check if you have any questions on the resize part. No questions? Okay, I will move on. So for this snapshot thing, right, we'll use the Windows VM. Okay, wait, what spec I gave? This, like, This should work, but why it's taking so long, I don't know. Okay, anyways, while that is going on, what I will do is I'll go and attach a new disk, right? So let's say we'll do data. I just need one disk, that is enough for now. And let's apply 4 GB is okay just for this demo. Okay, let's accept. Okay, we are in the server. It's just taking time to load things. This is done. Let's open computer management. So this is one problem with Windows. Like compared to Linux, this is going to be a little bit slow. For Linux and all, we were able to do things quickly. But to have a mixture of both the operating system, I think we'll do this on the Windows only. Okay. What we will do is we have a disk which is attached. So I'll just create a new volume and let's name it as F restore default. Okay. Now what we can do is let's open. We'll just put some files, okay, just to simulate it. Again, you have to wait. This is like crazy today. It's very slow. What I will do is probably we'll just copy this just to put some data. We'll say demo folder and just paste some contents. Okay. Now we just assume we have some data. Okay. What I will do is you can, if you want, like you will be able to take snapshots of your disk. Like if you go to your disk resource, right? In this case, this is the disk which is attached to our VM2. I can create a snapshot. Okay. And again, snapshot is going to be a separate resource. You have to name your snapshot. I'll just say data disk VM2. Okay. Let's take a full copy of our disk. And here also you have an option like what type of storage you're going to use. Okay, so we'll go with standard only just since we are just testing, and rest all pretty much I'll leave it as default. We'll look at all the other things later because for networking and all we should understand what other things. We'll come to that later, but I'll leave it as default. Now what we are doing, we're just taking a snapshot. Okay, snapshot of the disk. This will be a quick one. Okay, this won't take much time. We'll just wait for this to finish. Yeah, this is done. Now if I search for snapshots, this again is a separate service. So if you can see, right, this is our snapshot. Now what we will do, let's go and delete all these things. Okay, now let's say we wanted to recover those files. Okay, we know we have a snapshot available. Now we'll see like how using the snapshot we are going to recover. Okay, so what you can do is if you have a snapshot, you will be able to, you have to create a disk from the snapshot. Okay, you can directly attach a snapshot, but you have to create a disk using that snapshot. So what we will do, like I'll say create a disk, because you know, right, disk is a separate component. Like you can create a separate disk which is not even attached to any VM. I'll just say data temp. Okay, And let's say we are just creating this disk only for recovery purpose. Okay, nothing much. So what I will do, I'll go and say, go and create it. So once the disk is created, we have to associate that disk to our virtual machine. Okay, once that is done, rest all process is going to be easy. I will just see that in action so that you'll know what happens. Now, what we did using that snapshot, I created a disk. Okay, but if you see, this disk is not attached to any VM. It's not managed by any VM, and it is unattached. What I can do, I'll go to the virtual machine. Let's say in this case VM2, and go to disk, and I can say attach existing disk and select the disk which we created using that snapshot. Let's say apply. So once this is done, we should be seeing the changes inside the server. Let's go to disk and scroll down. You see, right? This is the disk which we just attached. Now let me bring online. Okay, so if you remember last time when we attached a new disk, okay, we had to do something like we have to do a formatting of disk and assign drive letters and all, right? But this time I just brought the disk online and it automatically took G drive. Okay, any idea why this is happening? Yes, why we don't have to do any formatting, etc. In this case, I just have to bring it online. It came. Probably I'll show it again if you want. So I'll just say, okay, we already used it, right? But yeah, so the question is, so this time, okay, let me just do it again, right? I'll just remove this, apply. Now this disk will, okay, maybe attach option because it is the snapshot of the disk. Okay, fine. So what we'll do is attach existing disk. We'll do this. I'll also say create and attach a new disk. So this is also going to attach a new disk, but this is an existing disk. That's the only difference. But let's say I'm also doing this. Okay. This time we are doing for both the disks. So let's refresh here. Okay, we got one and we got, okay. So you see again, right? This came online, but this one we have to initialize. Okay, and I was talking about this one. So we have to create a new simple volume. These things can come for the disk which was attached with snapshot. So why do you think? Like one is like, okay, Manju says it's because it is a snapshot disk. Okay. Any other reasons? Okay, so I'll tell you. So whenever you want to use, let's say you have, if you have a new disk, right? So basically you have to tell your operating system, okay, format my storage for so and so file system. Okay, so basically you will be doing a formatting of a file system. Okay, let's say you can still do a formatting here as well. So you will define what kind of file system you're going to use for your given disk, and then once that formatting is done, then only you will be able to use it. So in this case, the formatting was already done. Okay, we have taken a snapshot of a disk which is already formatted. So that's why you don't have to do that formatting again. If you're doing that formatting again, then gone, your all your data will be wiped out. Okay, so that is why it didn't ask for any formatting, and it we were able to just initialize the disk and it came up online with a available drive letter. Again, you can still change the drive letter. In case of Linux, it's going to be like you'll just mount it on whichever folder you want. Okay, and once you have this, like you can just recover the data and put it on the respective folder wherever you want to have it, and then you can do the normal routine work of doing a cleanup. Okay, I can just detach it and apply. Once that is done, I'll go to the disk section and delete those two resources so that you do a complete cleanup. So this is one way of recovery. Or the other cases, like if you want to just directly overwrite and remove your existing data which is not having your required information, that is also something people do. Again, it all depends on your requirement, but the point which I wanted to say is this is how in real time and all recovery and all will happen. Okay, so you will have a backup policy and all which would be attached to your VM. Okay, so that on a schedule basis there will be like backups which will be happening. Okay, you can attach a backup policy and all, which we'll see in the future session. But just remember, like you'll basically have some sort of policy where they will define like what is going to be the schedule, what all things we are going to back up, where it is going to be stored, all those things would be defined. And you can also, so another use case is, let's say for at least for folks from the database background, right? If you want to move some backup files from one VM to other VM. Okay, so this is one quick way. Instead of you manually copying files and all, if the VMs are not in same network, etc., you can just take a snapshot, take backup, attach a temporary disk, take your backup there, then detach the disk, or you can take a snapshot, then replicate it to whichever place where you want, and attach it from that VM. Okay, so that your this will be much more faster. Instead of you let's say copying files to maybe your cloud bucket or anywhere, with this approach it's going to be much more faster. Okay, so this is about the snapshot part. Any questions? All good?
Can we attach one disk to the multiple VMs?
uh Yes, so you have something called file share. Okay, that is what you're asking, right? Where it's going to act like a network share. So that is something you have with storage account and your normal disk also. I think you can convert. No, there is a separate service for that. Actually, we'll see that later. This managed disk, right? You cannot. Okay. So this would be, I mean, acting as a resource which is attached to a VM. That's what you could see here. If I go here, I think we removed it, but yeah, managed by, right? But if you go to, I think, storage account, which we haven't seen. So here you have Azure files and other things. Probably we'll see that later. Any other questions? Yes, no. You can just say that at least. Okay, I'll know if.
No, no question. But Naveen, you said local disk, right? How it is different from drive? The
No,
disk.
I didn't get your question. Can you please come again?
And while creating the VM, right? You said local is something, right?
Correct.
What, what exists? It's the same as the disk drive, or it is like the RAM? storage.
Okay, so see, this is also your disk only, okay, which is directly attached to that VM. Okay, so in yesterday's session, we talked more on this. This is like a temporary disk, okay, which will be super fast. This will be directly attached to your VM only, like whatever you are taking, depending on the series. So this will be closer to your actual VM in case of the physical hardwares. So which means this will be much more faster. You don't have direct control on this. Okay, depending on what VM specifications you choose, you will get the size accordingly. So you cannot directly control if you want to resize and all. It's not possible. This is the local disk which I was talking about.
If we spin this VM in the local system, you won't get this temporary storage, right?
Yeah. So yeah, all these are like cloud specific, right? Yeah. If you're, let's say, if I got your question correctly, if you're spinning up a VM, let's say in a hypervisor or VMware, you're
Mhm.
asking, do we get this local storage,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah,
Right.
though you will not get it. Yeah,
Okay.
in those things you will not get it. Okay, so we have like 5 minutes, right? So we'll talk a little bit on the networking side. Okay, so I thought like it's enough of VM related things. Still, there are other things on the compute side which we have to see. Okay, probably we'll see that later. But what we'll see is we'll have a small discussion about the networking, just to start things, right? For example, in compute, there are like other things which I wanted to talk. Like, for example, the important things are like you'll have something called virtual machine scale sets. Okay, this is something which will come for load balancing things and all, which we'll see later. But now we'll start discussing more on the networking side going forward. Okay. So before we touch on the Azure networking, okay, we will have to talk about basics of networking first. Okay, before we come to the Azure networking part. So like okay, I'm just thinking from where we will start, right? So okay, let's start with IP address only, no? So why do you think you all think we need an IP address? So we have a host name, but what is the need for having an IP address?
To communicate to that host,
Okay, can I do with the host name alone?
we need an IP address.
Okay, yeah. So IP address is like an identity, right? So uniquely identified. You can just put a number which will be unique for a given network. Okay, network is nothing but like a group of machines which are connected. Again, there are different types of network. We'll not go more deep, but just think network is just a group where you have a set of things connected. Okay, you can, for a simple example, you can think of the devices which are connected to your home Wi-Fi. Okay, you will have your mobile phones, laptops, smart TV, and all, which is all connected to your single Wi-Fi. Okay, that is a single network. Now, in the same example, right? For example, let me open the command prompt. I'll do IP config. Okay. So if you see, this is my IP address. Okay. And it gives whole bunch of different things. Okay. So all the devices, okay, including your mobile phones, whatever devices are connected, like this, they will also have a IP address which is allocated. Okay, so that they will be uniquely able to identify, okay, this is my address, you can call me by this IP. Okay, so that's what IP address will come into picture. But how these IP addresses are formed, and if you look at all most of your home networks, right, if anyone is in front of laptop, okay, you can just run this IP config. Okay, I'm sure your IP address will be in this 192.168. Okay, in this series only it's going to be. But why it is in this series and why not any other number? That is something which I'll talk about in the next session. But for now, can anyone just, if you are in front of laptop, right? Can you open your command prompt and type this ipconfig? Tell me, like, what do you see in your wireless LAN adapter Wi-Fi IPv4 address? Just first two numbers. 172. Oh, okay, that's great. Anyone else? Okay, Lakshman is having 192, 168. Okay. Fine. So, like, there is a reason, okay, why you will see this commonly. Okay, it's not like you cannot have others, but this is something which you will see common. Okay, once we probably in the next session you will get to know why it is so. Okay, but to continue our discussion, right? Okay, so now you just have a basic idea. Okay, network, these devices are connected. Now, okay, let's take this home setup only, right? So when you, okay, let's say you are connected to your Wi-Fi, okay, from your mobile or your laptop, and when you open your browser and type some website, right? So how your device is getting the data from internet? What all things at high level it does? It's okay if you are giving any answers, that is okay. I just want some answers from any, you all, that it will be nice. That's why.
Like if you do the trace route, like it will show the IP how it is tracing, and by the in this way you can find out how the connections are getting out, and the same thing for the website it is going to in.
Okay, okay. So let's do like this. Okay. Mm, let's say this is your we'll say Wi-Fi. Okay, and you have, let's say you have your laptop, and you have your let's say mobile phone one. Like this, you might have multiple devices which are connected. Okay, so all these things would be connected to your Wi-Fi. Okay, now so in this case, okay, my laptop is having what? This is my IP address. Okay, let's put that here. And my mobile might have IP address like this, and the other mobile might have IP address like this, for example. Okay, now what happens is, okay, I'm just talking from the high level. Okay, from here, if you search something, it has to, so if your Wi-Fi, let's say you don't have mobile data, if your Wi-Fi is not available, okay, your internet is not going to work. Do you all agree? If you are searching for something on the net, okay, let's say google.com, if you do something like this, if your Wi-Fi is down, you will not get any response, correct? Right? So now, okay, let's say you have submitted this request. Now let's say your Wi-Fi is up. Okay, from Wi-Fi, okay, your request has to go to internet. Okay, when it has to go to internet, okay, it, you should have some identity. Okay, the internet should know from where my request is coming, so that it can send the data backwards, right? um, so do you think, okay, when your request is sent to internet, it is going to carry this identity to the internet? In this case, our IP address is an identity, right, for our request. So I'm asking, so when I submit a request, okay, to the internet, does internet know, okay, this request came from this IP address? this case, this one.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Since the Wi-Fi is connected from the internet is connected from the Wi-Fi have the subnet, like it is going to distribute the IPs for all the laptops.
Okay, we're not talking about subnets yet. Okay, we'll come to that in a while. But for now, I'm just keeping it high level. Okay, so we'll not go to subnetting and all. People might get confused. Just
Yeah,
forget
okay.
about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For now, okay. So if you think it is going to go with this identity, okay. So internet is like a big pool, right? So there are high chances they will see multiple requests from the same IP address. So I might be having this. There could be another user with the same IP, which is there in his or her private network, right? So if that is the case, that is going to create a conflict. Do you all agree? If I'm sending this as my identity to the internet, okay, that would create conflict, which means like this same IP address can be held with someone else as well. Because in our meeting only, right, I think Lakshman had an IP address of this same series. So there are high chances he might have other numbers also same. Okay. So what happens is, so this is where your internet provider, okay, they'll have something called in technical terms, you will have a term called ISP, okay, internet service provider, we say, which is going to be like they'll have a public IP which is assigned to your network, okay. In your internet bill, this is one charge, okay. Along with the speed whatever they give, this is, they'll give one public IP, like how in cloud and all, if you take a public IP there is a separate charge involved, right? Similarly for internet also, in your bill you will have a public IP for which you will be charged. So what happens is, in before reaching your ISP, you will have another device called router, okay, another component. Let me type router, okay. So router is going to take your request, okay. So let's say you are doing www.google.com, router is going to take that request. It's going to say, okay, there is a request from this machine and it wants to look for this page. Then it will send that request to your ISP. Okay, your ISP will have a public IP which is assigned to your network. So how you can find the public IP? There are multiple ways. So you can do curl ifconfig.info. This is okay. We'll come to this again. Okay, what I will do is, there is what is my IP. Okay, if you do something like this, this is going to give your IPv4 and IPv6. Okay, now again, so with this, there are two types of IP address. Okay, we'll talk about IPv6 later, but for now let's stick with IPv4. So this is the public IP which my internet service provider has given to my connection. Okay, so what happens, this is the IP. Okay, now, so how to get from command line, I can do like this. So now you see, right, whatever it printed, this is IPv6. If I do -4, this is going to print IPv4. So this is my public IP. Okay, curl ifconfig.info. Okay, and there are, I mean, there are other ways to find also if you are interested, just for your knowledge purpose, right? I can do like ifconfig.me. This is again going to give my, this is giving my IPv6. Okay, so why it is giving IPv6 instead of IPv4 is because with all the modern hardwares, right, they keep the IPv6 as the preferred output, but still IPv4 is also supported. So that's why it is giving this. But in this case, command line, I can forcefully say, give me my IPv4, and that is what you see here. Okay, now going back to this discussion, right? So what your internet service provider is doing, okay, your router is going to route this request now to the internet. This is going to be my identity. Okay, Now with this identity, it will go and look for the web page whatever I'm looking for. Okay, again there is things like DNS and all, which we'll see later. But high level think, to the internet, my public IP is what which gets exposed. Okay, then it will go and fetch the data, come back, and then it goes to the router, and then it comes to your machine. So this public IP, whatever you have here, this is going to be common for all the devices in your network. Okay. Any request which goes from your network, these IPs are private. Okay. Whatever IP which is in this series, this is private, which is private to this network. Okay. You can think of like, so let's say if in case, let's say I'm in Bangalore. Okay, I will have a street called Second Main Road. Okay, but if you are living in Chennai or Hyderabad, there also you will have a street called Second Main Road. So those things are private, but there is something else which will be unique to differentiate it. Okay, so in this case, or you can think of a example as roll number or your employee ID. So if you have your employee ID as, let's say, 125 something like that, it doesn't mean like a person working on a different company cannot have the same employee ID, right? Those employee IDs are private to that company. Similarly, these IPs are private to this network. Okay, and this public IP is something which goes to the internet telling this is my identity. From this IP, there is a request. Okay, and then it's going to get the data and it will come back. You got this picture, at least at high level? Yes, no?
Yeah, yes.
Yes. Okay, awesome. So here, this process, right? Like you have a private IP which gets translated here to a public IP and then goes to the internet, fetches, right? So here they call this as, there is a term called SNAT. Okay, source network address translation. Okay, so what it does, it's going to hide your source network address in this case. So it's not going to reveal your public private IP to the outside world. Okay, it changes the sender's IP address to the internet, which means it's not, when I say change, it's not going to expose these IP address to the internet. Okay, so that is what they call it as an SNAT. Okay, then when there is one more concept called DNAT. Okay, which is um, called as destination network address translation. Okay, this one changes the receiver's IP address. Okay, let's say this will work reverse. Okay, so let's say I am sending a request to this IP on a specific port. Okay, this DNAT is going to send the traffic to the correct request depending on the port number and what type of request it is. So in Azure, when we talk about firewall, we'll see this DNAT things and all. Okay, but for now, just remember this is the concept. Okay, SNAT is something which is going to like keep the sender's IP, which is going to change your sender's IP when it is sending out, and DNAT is going to um, is for the destination network address translation. Okay, this is two things which you should know from this setup context. Okay, probably I'll stop with this here. Okay, for at least for today, because it's already like 12:12. But in the next class, we'll talk more about this networking, and eventually we'll then see how these things can be configured in the Azure side. I am going to stop the recording, but yeah.